वड्याई कोई नाम ना जाने मेरा दसां पातशाही दी आत्मक जोत अलजुग के बोहित नाम के जहाज हलत पलत की रक्षा करन वाले धन 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 साहिब श्री गुरु ग्रंथ साहिब जी महाराज आप दी अपार बख्शिश दा सदका पातशाह साइबर संगत एक बारी फिर जुड़ बैठी है आप दी कृपा होए गुरु मर्यादा अनुसार गुरमत ते विचार आरंभ करन दी आग्या दियो जी संगत दे कारज रास करो गुरमत अनुसार संगत नू विचार करन दी समर्था दियो आग्या दियो ते आप विचार कराओ जी सही प्यारे मेलो जिन्हां मिलिया आप जी दा नाम चित्ते आवे गुरु नानक नाम चढ़दी कला तेरे भाणे सरबत का वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा
वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह। हाँ जी, वाहिगुरु जी खालसा वाहिगुरु जी फतेह जी। This is Ravinder Singh joining you from Columbus, Ohio for another session of Gurbani Vichaar on Khoj Gurbani. Welcome all of you. Today the focus is going to be stanza 16, Pauri 16 of Japji Sahib, Panch Panch Pradhan. And what we are going to do is, I believe there was some discussion the last week which was left somewhat incomplete, and I was instructed that we should actually continue on with this Pauri. So with that in mind, we will just continue to explore this further. Is there anybody in the panel who would wish to read out the passage for all of us to begin? Will somebody volunteer to do that? No volunteers? Dilpreet Singh ji, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੈਗੇ ਹੋ ਤੇ ਜਰਾ ਪੜ੍ਹ ਦਿਓ ਪੌੜੀ।
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਵੀਰ ਜੀ ਜੋ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ।
ਹਾਂਜੀ पंच परवान पंच प्रधान पंचे पावे दरगे मान पंचे सोहे दर राजान पंचा का गुर एक ध्यान जे को कहे करे विचार करते कह करने नाही तुमार तौल धर्म दया का पूत संतोख थाप रखिया जिन सूत जे को बुझे होवे सचियार तवले ऊपर केता पार धरती होर परै होर तिस्तै भार तले कवन जोर जी जंत रंगा कै नाम सबना लिखिया बुड़ी कलाम एह लेखा लिख जाने कोय लेखा लिखिया केता होए केता ताण सवालियो रूप केती दात जाने कौन कूत कीता फसाओ एको कवाओ तिस्ते होए लख दरियाओ कुदरत कवन कहाँ विचार वारिया न जावा एक बार जो तुद भावै साईं भली कार तो सदा सलामत निरंकार।
Thank you ji, Dilpreet Singh ji, appreciate your reading out the passage. I think it kind of centers us around what we are going to discuss. So this particular stanza, I just want to sort of set the framework for the discussion, at least from my perspective, is doing a couple of things. It is introducing us to the concept of punch, which I think we need to explore. I think we are all familiar with the fact that the notion of punch or five is a very old and recurring concept, not only in Indian thought, but also in Western thought, the notion of five elements, even in Buddhist thinking. So the point is, it is a very pervasive idea that is being used. Panch Peer, as I'm thinking about. So I think the notion of a punch, I think, needs to be explored, and I would appreciate somebody, introducing us to this idea. What exactly is being referred to here? I mean, is it the number five? Some people have interpreted that way. or is it an iconic figure? Is it those who have attained a certain spiritual sophistication? We need to explore that. What exactly does the punch denote? Then there is also another concept here, which is linked to the previous Pauris, which I think we should explore, and that is the notion of dharam. Dal dharam, daya ka poot. I think dharam holds the key to a lot of the understanding of Guru Nanak's message. And the third one that I would certainly call out today is Pancha ka gur ek dhyan. What is the word gur here? Is it a teacher? Is it a method? Is it a technique? An ek dhyan. So we want to explore those ideas. So I am going to reach out to, is Ranveer Singh uncle there?
I'm here.
Uncle Tusi, will you sort of give us the context around some of these things that I've raised as Pauri de which, you know, what is the linkage to the previous Pauris, if any, because some of the notions are continuing here. So would you mind sort of just level setting for all of us, and then we can go from there?
Actually, I'll talk about punch first, best I understand. The word punch, like you said, has been used many times and in many different contexts. We have the punch chore, and we have other uses for punch, but I think in this context, this Pauri and Pauri number 34, there's a line, Tithe Sohn Panch Pravan. And like here, Panch Pravan, Panch Pradhan, it's the same sense. And Panch is like, I think somebody very nicely said it, like Panch of a Panchayat. So it's a people who are exalted, or in this particular context, I think Guru Sahib is referring to people who have gone through the Suniye and Maniye, people who have listened to and accepted Bani. They are the punch. And I think Guru Sahib is sort of summing up in the first 4 lines of this body the essence of Suniye and Maniye. And after that, Guru Sahib goes on to the second part of this body, where he talks about the greatness of Paramatma's Kudrat and our inability to really grasp the vastness of the infinite Paramatma. And the other context you mentioned was, what does Gur mean? I think from the context again, Pancha ka Gur Ek Dhyan. Gur and Ek both have anchored under them, and so Dhyan. And to me, it seems to me that Dr. Sahib Singh's translation, that the Panch think of Guru and Paramatma. That is their dhyan. And after that, the Guru Sahib goes on to other part of the Pauri where he talks about the greatness of God. I hope I helped some, but
Anjani, much appreciated. I think this sets us pretty well. So I think what you're trying to say here is that Guru Nanak is holding out the punch as in Sarpanch, or as in a leader or an exalted person. These are exemplars perhaps for us to think of, people who have scaled the summit and who have gone through the process of Suniye Maniye and perhaps apply. So I would like to throw this out. I mean, is dhyan here used as a technique, or is it being used as a state of being? I want to throw that out there. Charan Singh Veerji, would you want to sort of comment on that?
My understanding is that first of all, I don't consider that Panch here means people. I go by the concepts which Guru Sahib have introduced so far in the previous bodies. So listening is a faculty. Similarly, seeing is a faculty. Speaking is a faculty. Like all those type of things, the faculties which have been introduced, they constitute the Panch Parvan, and they are the Panch Pradhan also, because once we have Man Mein Simran Karya, those faculties don't die away. Don't We don't leave those primal faculties of listening, speaking, seeing, and understanding. So for me, the dhyan is very primal, because it is that primal consciousness, that Jot Swaroop Guru, Rare Thale Ankar jehdi hai, I consider it as the presence of divine in ourselves, and that divine controls everything. एक कोई बोल रहा है, एक कोई सुन रहा है, एक कोई समझ रहा है, एक कोई देख रहा है. So all in oneness, and that Guru is the dhyan. If we are not attentive to listening, we cannot do it. If we are not attentive, we cannot speak or see or reflect upon. So in that perspective, the element of attentiveness and extensive attentiveness enables us to see this world, experience this world through listening, speaking, uh, reading, and accepting and reflecting upon it. That's my take.
So if I understand you correctly, are you referring to the Panch as being faculties, the 5 faculties? Is that what you're calling them?
That is correct.
अच्छा जी, ठीक है जी. हाँ जी, Gurdeep Singh Veer ji, do you want to? So now we have two sort of slightly differing interpretations of the term punch. I don't think that the difference is that great, but let us talk about it a little. So Ranveer Singh Uncle referred to the punch as exalted individuals. I used the word exemplars, which again refers to punch as a noun, as a person or an individual. Charan Singh Veerji is referring to punch here as collective faculties, the 5 faculties. So in other words, he's using it more as a verb, I think. So what's your take on this?
Since I was missing last time, so I missed actually most of it. So I will just try to say a few words on this. First thing is definitely a person whose thinking is based on the previous bodies, but we learned in Japji Sahib. Mankita Paho, Antargata Tirthamano. Definitely, these attributes one must have. What is dhyan now? I have to take a reference from another place from Guru Granth Sahib. Tun mein dhyan, dhyan mein janya. Tuni, what's the question? What is tun? That's anhad tuni. So with these efforts, you will come to a stage, your dhyan automatically will fetch into this thing, the anhad tuni. That's what it means here. No matters when we talk about other Sarpanch and Panch, 5 people and all that, they must have these 5 attributes, what was mentioned in Japji Sahib first. Only then they are selected in this world, and ultimately they are probably accepted in the other world too. So, Mil mare jin panch sur bir aso kon balire. This again is the same related to Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Hankar. Those are 5 elements which are very much against, that's the interruption in the way to the salvation of, in the way of a second world, you know. So first, when we overcome those, he is a punch. How we can overcome? Nehte panch jwan thapi diti kand jiyo. That means we can't ignore the Guru out of it. Guru is a kevat. He's the one who can help us to get through the ocean, get through the river to the other side. This is how I feel.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you. Dilpreet Singh Ji, what's your perspective on this discussion so far, the sort of slightly differing interpretations on Panch and on Dhyan, whether you think this is a technique or is this a state?
Right, I feel that this is a representation of the wise people, or as you said, the exemplars or the leaders. It is representing that, and the last line is saying that Pancha ka gur ek dhyan, that is explaining that where they are living the life as per Shabad, or they are, we can call this is what is Simran, this is what is they are unified with Naam, or they live by Naam. So, and then it is the representation that everybody wants that we should be accepted by God. Everybody wants that we should be accepted here in the world, and everybody should respect us. And the kings means it is again a representation that the people who are renowned here should also respect us. So Guruji is saying the one who attains this or gets all of this, to attain this, this is what you have to do, or this is what they have done, or this is what they do. That Pancha ka gur ek dhyan, that they are living the life as per Naam, and Naam dwells in them. And again it goes back to our first body, that all those guns which are there in Akal Purakh are have been planted in them or grown in them, and they exercise those guns. So it is the representation of the first body, and that is what I think Dhyan is.
Thank you very much, Dilpreet Singh Ji. Let me reach out to Avtar Singh Ji Taliwal if he's still on.
Yes, I am. And we have to keep in mind the contextual component of what we are talking about for the topic of Panch Pravan, Panch Pradhan. In the previous Pauris, in my humble opinion, Guru Nanak Dev Ji has done comparative analysis of other religions and the accomplished people called by those religions, for them as the yogis, nathas, and whatever else, that they think that they have reached for that far, whereas Guru Nanak Dev Ji giving us the realities of life and factual presentation of what can be done to become Manan, that is the exalted personality, as I mentioned last time. These accomplished people, having reached the stage where they are prominent people, accomplished people, these are what Guruji is calling them. Instead of calling them yogis or calling them naths, Guruji is calling them as the Panch, and he's defining them as the qualified, accomplished people. And in the line that they are mentioning, Pancha ka gur ek dhyan, that these accomplished people only concentrate, they concentrate only on the Guru. And Guru here, or Guru Nanak Dev Ji is mentioning, is the Bani that has been presented. And in that respect, since Guru is the Bani, and these Panch people and the accomplished people have achieved that status, in their thinking all the time is nothing but what the Guru has directed them to be. Those are all the qualities that they have accomplished only by thinking of one Guru's one advice.
Thank you, Ji. Avtar Singh Ji. We'll come back to you. We have quite a few people that I have not reached out to, and I don't want to belabor the point, but I do want to invite Bani Kaur, and I believe Dr. Jaswant Singh has joined. I see him come on. Bani Kaurji, do you have a take on the discussion so far? Your notions of what the punch might mean?
Actually, I'm sort of like grasping my head around all these different points of views, so I don't think at this point I can really take a stance, but hopefully I can pitch in a little bit later as I'm writing this down.
Very good, just like me. All right. So, Jaswant Singh Ji, Virji, I know you've just joined, but we are talking about the notion of punch, and we are trying to figure out. So, some of us believe that punch is a representation of the exemplars of Dharam, people who have scaled the spiritual summit through the process of Sonia and Maniye. And then there is also a viewpoint, equally interesting, I think, which is referring to Panch not as an individual or as an iconic figure, but as faculties, your inherent faculties, the 5 faculties. So would you want to sort of comment on what your take is?
Yeah, of course. I think that's the common belief that Panch, of course, comes from the people, those who have listened to the Guru's teachings, have accepted them, in a sense, have put those teachings into their practice, everyday practice, and have gained an exalted state of mind. But there is a very interesting Khoj Gurbani which helps us to understand the definition of these Panch. The Khoj is I think I'm just forgetting it. Anyway, the Khoj is Pancham Panch Pradhan Te Jih Tajyo Prapanch. So probably to me, this Khoj is very beautiful to define the definition of Panch.
I think the key is Tajyo Prapanch.
Prapanch, yes. Yes.
So just help us with that notion, because that is very interesting and it ties back to this discussion. Because what is being referred to here is that Panch are those who have Tajyo Parapanch, those who have discarded, or at least who are not in the snare of the Parapanch, which is another term for Maya.
Yes, sure. So that's what I would like to look at that.
ठीक है जी.
And
अच्छा जी, Harvinder Singh, have I missed anybody who's come on and I haven't noticed? Is Gabri ji on?
I think Paramjit Singh ji.
Anji, Rana ji, would you like to, this will be the last round on this particular question. Would you like to give us your take? I don't think he's there. Okay, so very interesting conversation around this. Let me move on.
Hello, I'm talking. Sorry.
I couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Oh, can you hear me now?
And now I can.
I'm sorry. my microphone was on mute.
You're probably talking to yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry. As you were saying, that my take on this one may not be as good as the people around the table. They have a lot more experience and knowledge. But as we were talking last week, I think Guru Sahib has discussed that it's a process of progression from Suniye and Maniye, and the state we arrive at is what they call Panch. But now I understood that Dr. Jaswant Singh mentioned about another Tuk somewhere, and he said maybe we can draw a meaning from that. My concern here is, and I will share that with everybody, that although the same words are used in Gurbani in many different places, we must interpret those words in the local context in which they are used. Panch on page 1200 might have a different meaning. The word is same, and it might have a different meaning somewhere else. So we shouldn't forget the context in which the same word is used. So here I feel that this is the level the person has scaled that summit as you're talking about to the process Suniye and Maniye. But at the same time, I have one question for everybody here is, when Guru Sahib is saying Panche Pave Darge Man, Dargha, so I need to understand what is the concept of Dargha, which Guru Sahib is referring here as well. But to answer your question, Panch means people who have elevated to that level. That's my thing.
Thank you.
Ravinder Singh ji, I would like to amend a little bit in the talk that I mentioned. The talk actually is at page number 297. The talk is Pancham Panch Pradhan Te Jeh Janeo Prapanch, not Tajyo.
Okay.
Jeh Janeo Prapanch. In that sense, those who have understood, those who have realized the reality of this Maya or the snares of this world.
Thank you, Ji. Thank you. I think it doesn't significantly change our understanding.
Yeah, of course.
Hanji. So thank you very much. Now, I think Paramjit Singh Rana ji raises a very interesting point. He wishes to kind of explore the lines that have Panche Paveh Dargah Man, Panche Sohe Dar Rajan. And I think the logical question here would be, which dargah or which court is, what is dargah here, and which Rajan? Rajan, obviously the everyday meaning is Raja or king. So what is being referred to here? And I would like to add my own little twist on this. I have often wondered if the idea of the Panch or the ideal of the Panch was not the inspiration later for the Panch Pyare or the Khalsa. And the reason I'm thinking about that is that because, you know, we see that all the inspiration for the institutions of the Khalsa came perhaps from Guru Nanak's Bani, and Panch being quite an outstanding example. So I am going to throw this out there to the panel, that when they respond to what they think Dargah is and what which Rajan are being referred to, also to perhaps touch on what I have asked. Could it be that the idea of the Panch basically found expression in the Khalsa later on as Panch Pyare? So Uncle Ranbir Singh, let me come back to you with these questions.
And Ravinder Singh ji,
Hanji.
one thing.
Gabria ji is there.
Hanji.
Hanji. Can we just come back to him after Ranbir Singh, Uncle? Uncle ji, I'll come to you, Gabri ji.
So, my take on this is simple. I look at the Gurbani here. Panche Pave Dargah Man. And grammatically it says, at the Dargah, they get respect and honor. And I would understand that being are honored by Paramatma. That means they're accepted by God as honorable, respected, exalted people, as good beings, and so they receive honor. And Guru Sahib has, in Guru Granth Sahib, we find that repeatedly, the people being honored at the Dargah, at Guru's Darbar, at Paramatma's Darbar. And the next line says, Panche Sohe Dar Rajan. And here, Rajan has an anchor under the Nana, and it cannot be the door of the kings and so on, because that would not be relevant, you know, for people who are honorable in Paramatma's eye. They don't have to be very much respected at the ruler's court. And this was not so with our gurus. Our fifth guru and the ninth guru, they were not respected very much by the rulers of those times. So Guru Sahib could not be referring to receiving respect or looking, you know, sohe, matlab sobhaiman hunde ne, you know, sobha mildi hai, Raja ko. I don't think that's the spirit here. It's, to my mind, it's a continuation of the previous line. Panches Pava Dargah Man, that means that God's court, they receive respect. And then Panches Sohe Darajan, that at the Dargah, that is God's door. This Dar is Paramatma's door and Dargah, not a king's court. And
may I interrupt for a minute?
Sohe Darajan.
I would
let Ranbir Singh ji finish, please. Whoever is interrupting.
Yes. And Sohe Darajan, Sohe means Subhayaman Hunden, Soha Lenden, as if they were kings. So it's like God treating those people as if they were, right at top of the world. They were rulers of the world.
So basically, a successful journey, a successful journey through.
That's right.
Gabri, thank you, Uncle. Let me go to Gabri ji, who's joined us. I don't know how much of the discussion you've been privy to, but we are basically asking the question. We are referring to the second and third lines of the Pauri, Manche Pave Dargah Maan, asking the question, what is being referred to here as Dargah and Rajan. And I also added the fact that I am basically looking for unity. Guru Nanak's Bani providing the basis of all Sikh institutions, and that's just my own personal question. So would you want to comment, please?
Panch Parwan, Panch Pradhan, Panche Pave Dargah Maan. First of all, the question is what is the Panch? Panch Shabad Gurbani de कई बार यूज किया गया सेम एब्सोल्युटली वर्ड पंच मनाए पंच मनाए पंच रसाए पंच बसाए पंच गवाए इंदे नगर उठा मेरे भाई. So with the body of Suniye and Maniye, the status of mind of a person is elevated to the extent that he is not within the Tragun. He has gone beyond the level of Tragun, which is called the Chotha Pad, Turiyavastha. So once the person reaches to that, the Turiyavastha, he is totally acceptable to the Creator. Bob, ਉਹਦੀ ਗੋਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਆ ਕੇ ਸਮਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਸਮੁੰਦਰ ਦੀ ਬੂੰਦ ਸਮੁੰਦਰ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਸਮਾ ਗਈ ਹੈ. So with the bodies of ਸੁਣੀਏ ਕੀ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਹੈ ਕਿਸ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਸੁਣ ਕੇ ਕੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਇਹ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਪੌੜੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੂਰਨ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਦੱਸ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਭਾਈ ਇਹ ਅਵਸਥਾ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ.
If you wouldn't mind sticking to English, we do have people who are challenged with Punjabi.
But my English is not that good anyhow. So I want to say this is the fourth dimension. The person, after listening mindfully to the Gurbani and then accepting his mind totally involved himself, totally give up. Give up means he is out of the egoistic level and reaches to the extent that he has totally dissolved himself.
So can I just stop you for a second? So how does that square with the tuk that you just recited from Gurbani, Panch Rusai, Panch Manai? Is that referring to a person as well?
Of course, this is the Panch means that ye kaam, krodh, lo, moh, hankar nu gwa ke sat santokh daya dharam sehj nu apne jeevan ch le ke aana hai. So this is the status of Panch. The mind reaches to that level, which is level of the fourth dimension, not within the Maya. So he has gone beyond the Maya.
So I mean, we've established that. So I appreciate your input. Avtar Singh ji, I know you had a question. I'm sorry I had to cut you off, but I would appreciate it if you just give us a pause before you ask a question. Hanji, go ahead.
I was going to ask about I was rather going to ask a question, keeping in mind the description of God or Lord, whatever you want to call it, by Guru Nanak Dev Ji from the Mool Mantar. And I like to ask that where is the court of God that is called Dargah, and who is responsible for that court? I think that this is nothing more than Vedantic philosophy that we are interpreting Gurbani. Guruji started this Shabad with Panch Parwan, Panch Pradhan, and that is isolating these people from the Vedantic Siddhas, Nathas, and Yogis. taking us away from that philosophy. Guruji is telling us that these are the guys, these are the people that have accomplished by...
So is that a question? I thought you had a question.
The question is that
because what is the question?
Question, where is this dargah and who knows and who has been there?
Okay, I follow what you're trying to say here. So I think I might add a little bit of my own comment here. So we use a lot of expressions like dargah, of course. We think in terms of physicality, I think, and we also use terms like submerging into the larger consciousness or dissolving into a Kalpuruk Vaheguru. So I often wonder, how do we know that someone has reached that state? Is there some kind of a marker that we can recognize in all of this? I think that is where Avtar Singh Ji is kind of heading in that direction, if I'm not mistaken. So let me, I know there are people out here that I have not gone back to in a while. Dilpreet Singh Ji, do you want to comment on this? And then I'll come back to Gabri Ji.
Hanji Virji, thank you. See, this is what has been my struggle, that what is the definition of God? Because Dargah, everybody will agree that it is God's place or God's house or God's hall or his court. But as per Gurbani, we should see what is Guru Nanak's definition of God. Now Guru Nanak is saying, Apine aap sajiyo, apine rachiyo now, doi kudrat sajiye kar asan dithe chao, that he is sitting or he is in his creation, he is seated within his creation. And then we have many examples in Gurbani, if we that Eko har ravya sarb thai gur shabdi miliye meri mai. So again it is repeating the same thing, that the one Lord is prevailing in all places. And then again another example, sagal banaspat meh basantar sagal doodh meh kiya unch neech meh jyot samani ghat ghat madho jiya. So, and again that sab gobind hai gobind bin nahi koi सूत एक सुन सत सहंस जैसे उत पोत प्रभ सोई रहाओ. So it is again saying, as the one thread holds hundreds and thousands of beads, he is woven into his own creation. So if we keep looking into Gurbani, again it says, Ibe Beetal, Ube Beetal, Beetal bin Sansar nahi. So we have to see, as per Guru Nanak, what I think is that his dargah or the God's place is this universe, or whatever is around us. This surrounding is the dargah. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Hanji, Gabri Ji, would you like to explain what this dargah is?
Hanji,
and where is it?
If we understand this way, that our conscious mind is absolutely out of the bondage of the Maya and reaches to the extent that the superconscious and our conscious absolutely jyotich jos magai. So this is what I'm trying to explain. The Shabad is of Chautha Pad. When the person has reaches above all the Tragun, the Rajan means the superconscious. Pancha ka gur ek dhyan, the Pave Vekevi, he is totally absorbed in superconscious. So he himself is totally dissolved. So this is the status of the Shabad means. The person who attains this.
So Gabri Ji, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can you, so I'm completely lost. I mean, I don't know what super consciousness is. I don't know what being completely dissolved is. So would you be able to explain this in language that someone like me could understand, just day to day? What exactly is being, what does this all mean?
The consciousness, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਚੇਤਨ ਅਵਸਥਾ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹਦਾ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤਿੱਥੇ ਘੜੀਏ ਸੁਰਤ ਮਤ ਮਨ ਬੁੱਧ, these are all level of the conscious. So the superconscious is absolutely thoughtless, sun samad. ਜਿੱਥੇ ਫੁਰਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ, the no desires, no attachments, nirlep avastha. So panche sohen darajan. So the, the meaning is acceptable. The person who has attained this level of consciousness, he is totally acceptable to the Creator.
ठीक है जी, thank you. I know that Jaswant Singh has a question, wants to say something. Dr. Jaswant Singh ji, couple of minutes.
Yeah, I was listening to Panche Pavan Dargahman. So I think there are two things. One is that we always need to look at what is the meaning of the tuk in the context of this Pauri. So there it is a reference to the Dargah of Vaheguru. And the first line may also mean Panche Pavahe Dargahman. This Dargah may also refer to Guru's Dargah, Guru de Dar. And the second line, Panche Sohe Dar Rajan, I would like to agree with Paji Ranveer Singh. He has said very beautifully, Rajan has anchored. So this refers to Vaheguru. So this also refers to the Vaheguru's Dar. So for the sake of reference, Guru Sahib, you know, ਇਹੋ ਹੀ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਦੋਵਾਂ ਤੁਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੰਚ ਨੇ ਦੇ ਪਾਵੇਂ ਦਰਗਹਿ ਮਾਨ, they are honored there. ਪੰਚੇ ਸੋ ਹੈ ਦਰ ਰਾਜਾਨ, ਉਹ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੇ ਦਰ ਤੇ ਸੋਭਾ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ. Now the question is, how do we understand this dar? Where is this dar?
Yeah, what is this there? Yes, as opposed to here.
Yeah. But I mean, the first thing is that meaning ਉਹਦਾ ਇਹੋ ਹੀ ਆ ਕਿ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਦੀ ਦਰਗਾਹ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹ ਸੋਭਾ ਪਾਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ. Because that's for the reference, that's how the people have been believing there is something like dar, right? So Guru Sahib will say, because here the question is not of dar. It's not the dar is being defined here. Here, the panch are being defined.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah. So dar te dargah lai, we have another beautiful tuk in the Gurbani, just one tuk that says, Andar Raja Takht hai, ape kare nyaun. So that tuk helps us, view dar te dargah jada actually is within us, within every one of us. So in a sense, in the same world here.
So it's an inner state, basically.
Yeah.
It's an inner state. Thank you, Ji. Charan Singh Veerji, I haven't reached out to you in a while. I'm sorry.
That's okay, Ji. For me, Dar is this visible word. Dargah is this visible word, as well as the internalized word from where everything originates. So both are the Dargah. And at both places, the inside and the outside, the five faculties which are acceptable are listening, speaking, reading, and reflecting, right? And the Dhyan, of course, Panchankaguru Ek Dhyan. So these faculties can enable us to reach the core, Jot Swarup de Naal Milan Lai. These are the primary characteristics. Similarly, these are the primary characteristics to get recognition in this physical world also. Je main listening, speaking meri kharab hoegi, je mere bol maade honge, I will not be able to get recognition anywhere. So from my perspective, the five faculties are important to reach the Jot Swarup as well as getting recognition in this physical world, because it's through the listening, speaking, seeing, and reflecting that we get recognition. Such and such person is a good person because he talks politely, his mithbolada or his knowledge is great, his reflection is great, he is very attentive. Similarly, all these faculties are appreciated in the Dargah, which is internal connection to our Jot Swarup. That's my take. Both words, inside as well as outside, get recognition through the faculties of listening, speaking, reading, and reflecting. And of course, attentiveness.
Hanji. Thank you, Ji. Thank you very much. I hope I haven't missed anybody. I want to actually move on a little bit.
Gurdeep from Montreal, missed you.
Hanji, Gurdeep Singh Veerji, sorry. I think we have quite a few people and I am having trouble keeping track on who's on.
I'm listening very carefully. What Charanjit said, or previously my brother said, gave me a very good sense. But the court is not a physical court, but it's within you, as Charan Singh said.
Ji.
Gurbani says, many places Dharam Rai nu hukum hai, ba sacha dharam vichar, ਦੂਜੇ ਪਾਏ ਦੁਸ਼ਟ ਆਤਮਾ ਸਭ ਤੇਰੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਧਰਮ ਰਾਏ ਹੈ ਹਰ ਕਾ ਕੀਆ that's the other point the third one is ਵਿੱਚ ਦਰਗਾਹ ਢੋਈ ਨਾ ਲੈਣ ਸੁਣ ਮੀਤ ਪਿਆਰੇ so ਦਰਗਾਹ comes many places it's not only one ਅਮਲ ਜੇ ਕੀਤੇ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਰਗਾਹ ਆਵੇ ਕੰਮ that's by Bhakt Farid ji ਫਿਰ ਅੱਗੇ ਆ actual reality is man mela such nirmala kyon kar milya jaye so we have to purify our mind then we become one with the supreme power this is what the based on all what we said suniye maniye man kita pao that's very good those faculties they will help us to purify our mind but we will keep on taking birth and death until we are purely pure similar to the God the creator so then we can get into that. Otherwise, our conscience is very clear. We cannot do any favor to our body that after death I will deceive myself. We cannot. We have to pay. Karma upar nibde. Jaisa bide solune karma sandra case. It will be justice will be done to our body. I don't know whether there will be a special office or whatever, but it's clearly indicated in the Gurbani. There will be our judgment day will be based on our karma, whatever we do in this life, it will be judged and we get our second life based on that. Thank you very much.
Anji, thank you, Ji. Thank you.
Anji, can I add few cents here, please?
Anji, please go ahead.
When I was reading this Pauri or these lines this morning, getting prepared for this evening meeting here, I wondered on this line, and in one of the blogs earlier, I mentioned about my belief and my thoughts that there's a perceived or empirical reality out which we perceive, and one is spiritual reality, which transcends this empirical world. So Dargah here, to me, Guru Sahib is referring that in the spiritual reality, get out of the physical world, material world, we are talking, you come and enter there. Once you enter there, you are the prominent people, you are respected. So this, and I'm trying to understand what is this. I spent quite a bit of time this afternoon to understand. I was Googling around, asking people, what is spiritual reality? So I'm not very clear about that. But my understanding is one thing is very clear. This is beyond the empirical reality, perceived reality, what we see. And this spiritual reality also subsumes our physical reality, and it permeates in our physical reality. And that is what I call Na, which permeates here. So it's everything is coming from spiritual reality, and I call that as a Dargah. And Guru Sahib is saying that once you attain this Suniye Maniye, you come to that level and you're respected, you're honored, you're accepted. That's my belief. That's my understanding.
Thank you, Ji. Much appreciated. And I think that we've had a very good discussion on this idea of Panch. And I'm going to try and summarize what I believe I've heard. I think the predominant thought was that Panch is representative of exemplars, in other words, meaning individuals, but it is not very far from the other meaning of being inner faculties. Dilpreet Singh, I think, laid out the framework when he talked about Apine Aap Sajyo, Apine Rachyo Now, and also he referred to a tuk where he talks about Vaheguru being homogenized or woven into the texture of his own creation. So in other words, Kan which he's present, and I use the word he because of the limitations of the language. So I think, and then to Paramjit Singh Ranavirji's explanation that there is an empirical reality, but then beyond that there is also an unseen world, which is perhaps the source of everything that is seen. So in that sense, yes, it subsumes that. And I'm reminded of the fact that, we are talking about live and dat, the two orientations that a human does have. And perhaps what is being said here is that the two have to be in sync. And that is what I have gathered from this discussion. And I thank you all for a very good discussion. We have about 10 minutes left. And unless someone has something, there's one thing that nobody responded to, which was a question I had asked, and I'll ask it again. You know, Panch is very significant in Sikh doctrine and tradition. And this ideal, I personally, you know, like Paramjit Singh ji, I also struggle with some concepts and ideas. And my thought has always gone to the fact that there is a continuity from Guru Nanak all the way to Guru Gobind Singh. And might it be that this notion of Panch then found expression in the Khalsa, number one. And two, was this the starting of the creation of an ideal Sant Sipahi, the model, the Gurmukh model, if you will? Because, you know, at the end of the day, no matter how we think of this, we do live in this world. And we do have to engage in the affairs of this world. So I get the sense that being a Panch simply means that you're being ready to participate in the affairs of the world in a manner that you're expected to, living in Hukam. So I want to throw that out for a couple of minutes. Does anybody have any comment on that? Jaswant Singh ji, do you want to talk about that?
I think yes. I mean, if we look at that and we believe all the 10 gurus as one, and we believe that all the concepts of Sikhi, the concepts which were behind all the institutions and practices being implemented in the Sikhi over time, we can find in the Gurbani. So from that perspective, we can, you know, try to link some way that this Panch may, you know, connect to the Panch Pyare. But looking at the definition, Panch here is not mentioning to any number basically. So then there it may differ a little bit. This Panch to me is very synonymous to the word which was there in the first Pauri, Kiv Satyara Hoye. So here Satyara and Panch are synonymous. Satyara because those who enshrine truth, and Panch, they are known as Panch because they are the one who understand the prapanch. So prapanch cho pra kad do, you know, the Maya, take out the Maya, the impact of Maya, you have become Panch.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And I get the point. I mean, I think I was thinking about Satyara more than the number 5, because to be a Panch Pyara, to be a leader, you have to be a Satyar in the first place, so that you have to be at a certain moral and ethical standing.
Yep.
I'm trying to connect it to our lives as we live it, and it seems to me that Panch becomes the basis of human leadership.
Yeah, that's true.
Anji,
something here?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm just making a comment, and I think Gurdeep Singh Vedji wants to make a comment.
I wanted to say something. I know how this Panch is related to Panch 5, but Bhai Gurdas ji mentioned ek Sikh doe saaz Sangat Panji Parmeshwar. So this is where the concept of 5 came, and Guru Gobind Singh ji also picked up 5 Pyaras, but those attributes in Pyaras were that Guru Gobind Singh said, sorry, I forgot, there's a special attributes they should have. Atam Rasya Janai, so hai Khalis Dev, Prabhu mein, Moh mein, Tas mein, Ranchik Nahin Pev. So Khalsa means also who's Atam Rasya. So it's based on Gurbani from Guru Granth Sahib. Atam Ras Jin Janaya, Har Rang Sahje Maan, Nanak Tan Tan, Jan Aaye Te Parwan. So Panch Pyale, Panch Peer, Shatam Peer Baitha Guru Pari, Guru Arjan Kaya Pantke, Murchar Gun Swari. So Panch Nariyal te Panch Paise, Asi Pardhe Ben, first Guru, the Gadi to the second one, he put Nariyal and Panch Paise, then the same passed on to the other and other. So I don't know.
Anji, I appreciate your input. Anji, we have about 5 minutes left. I think this is a good stopping point. We are far from completing this Pauri. I would like to suggest, Hanji.
Bhai Raghuveer Singh ji had mentioned a very important point of considering God's court as the universe and the creation that is existing all around us. And in here, in my humble opinion, Panche Pave Dargah Maan, that those accomplished people are acknowledged and celebrated and honored in the society of the Panchas. Dargah here means is the society of the Panchas. And that's where they are being honored. Panche Soha Darra Jan. Here is not just the kings and the kingdoms that are being considered.
Yeah, I think
are the people that are living in the Raza.
I think we've touched on these exactly these points earlier, and we need to wrap up. We need to wrap up at this point. I'm sorry to cut you off. So I just want to open up for last comments on Panch. And as I was saying earlier, we are far from complete. We will be following up with the concept of Dharam, Dal Dharam, Daya Ka Poot. I think that is a discussion in itself, if not multiple discussions. So we will go there. But I just want to give anybody who wants a minute or less to make a final comment. So Charan Singh Veerji, minute or less, any final comment on today's discussion, and if you want to add anything.
There is a Jyot inside, and that Jyot speaks through us. That Jyot listens, sees, reflects, and is the attentive channelization of our what is internalized as the Jyot. That same manifests outside also, and the only match between these two, inside and outside, is through those faculties of listening, speaking, reading, and reflecting, and with the attention. That's it.
Thank you, Ji. Hanji, let me see who. Ranbir Singh, Uncle, do you want to use a minute or less to conclude?
Not really, because I think everything has been said.
Has been said, Hanji.
And whatever I said earlier has been explained further by our friends. And I agree with them.
Thank you, Ji.
Dargah is not a physical place.
Hanji. Dilpreet Singh Ji.
Hanji, so the way I see this is, I think it has been talked, the main line or the main message in this line is Pancha ka gur ek dhyan, that who is great, that person is great, jis da dhyan guru de ik de vich dhyan hai. And I think that is the message we have to take, because that will tell us, that answers the questions again, kiv sachiara hui hai. So Pancha ka gur ek dhyan relates this to kiv sachiara hui hai, and that is the important message in this line.
Thank you, Dilpreet Singh Ji, and I think this message has been repeated over and over again in the previous Pauris. Gabri Ji, in a minute or less, would you like to offer some concluding remarks?
ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੰਚ ਨੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਪੰਚ ਦੀ ਅਵਸਥਾ who has attained this status of mind, they have attained only tune to the creator. Gur means jugat. What jugat they have adopted, they have totally surrendered and have totally focused to the one creator, and they have reached to this status. This is what I would say.
Thank you, Ji. Have I missed any? Harvinder Singh, I never came to you today.
I was enjoying it, so I think we only left with Paramjit Singh Ji, and then we can conclude.
Param Singh, Virji, Ranavir Ji, do you want to say something? A minute or less?
No, I just want to say one thing. You see, the last tuk jehdi hai Pancha ka gur ek dhyan, it comes back to what I was thinking before in Dargah is the spiritual domain, in that everybody is focused on one thing, and there's unity. That's what it Pancha ka gur ek dhyan. That's my thought, that the unity there of thought, unity of action, unity of deed, and unity of focus. That's what I feel.
Thank you, Ji. We are at 10 o'clock now, Eastern Standard Time. And like a lot of you, I have to also back up. And I do thank you all for a wonderful, wonderful, and very congenial discussion. Much appreciated. I learn a hell of a lot every time I come and listen to you folks. And I wish that we had more time so that we could carry on. But thank you again, and we will converge next Wednesday, the 8th of October, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will carry this discussion forward. Fateh Parwan Karni ji, Vaheguru ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru ji ki Fateh.